Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite characters in Hunter x Hunter, Illumi Zoldyck. We're specifically going to be looking at if he is actually a good older sibling to the other Zoldyck siblings, right? And, when at face value, no, he is not, because he really traumatized a lot of them, right? But we're not going to be looking at, him playing ball with Killua, right? We're going to take a look at, did he fulfill his duty correctly? Because the Zoldyck family are very unique in how they do things, right? They're assassins. So the most important thing to them are the clients. That's why when we seen the fight with Zeno and Silva versus Crollo, Zeno was about to get killed because they prioritize the job, right? Now, if we look at what they care about, secondly, it's themselves, like their family, right? They do love each other. They do. And that's a very big misconception because of how they are with each other. They do love each other and they do put family first in a lot of situations, except for when it's an actual job, right? Because that's their whole thing. They're assassins and they put the job first before anything. So if that includes, I have to throw Killua into a bomb, because the client told me to do it, maybe or maybe not. But, like in the case with Silva and Zeno, that happened, right? Um, but one of the most important things, right, with Illumi Zoldyck is the whole story arc with Killua, right? When we're first introduced to Illumi, he uses Nen and the needle that he implanted in Killua's head to get him to leave the hunter exam and fail, right? To kill Baldor, or whatever his name is. I'm sorry. He was in, a couple episodes. But anyway, um, a lot of people would look at that and say that's psychologically, messing Killua up. And yes, it does, but if we look at, the whole point until when Killua finally removes the needle, I would say that it did benefit Killua a little bit, right? And now before you start commenting that it was abuse, it was, messing him up, it was holding him back, Killua is very strong, right? Especially at the end of the series when he gets Godspeed. But when he was going against the Phantom Troop, right? And even I think in the movie too, when he's running away from certain people, right? Phantom Rogue, it definitely protected him in a lot of scenes, right? Especially one of the most important scenes of all time when Kite gets his arm knocked out, right? Gon doesn't have a needle in his head. Gon is filled with rage and would have died, right, to go fight Neferpito and save Kite. But Killua had Illumi's needle in his head and knocked him out and left. Used his survival instinct that Illumi gave him with the needle, right? If somebody's stronger than you, run away. And he used that, and that actually benefited them because they would have died. There's nothing could have saved them, right? Maybe, Kite had a teleporting ability or something like that, but no. We've seen Kite was getting packed up by Neferpito. And he definitely wouldn't have been able to save them while dealing with her at the same time. So that definitely saved both of them in that moment. So we could thank Illumi for that, right? Even if it is messed up, right? But then we get to see the development because Killua pulls it out and he's not afraid anymore. And once, he really doesn't have that problem anymore, right? He gets stronger, he gets Godspeed, and he's a big contender, right? He's pretty strong, and he doesn't have to worry about fearing people or anything like that. He could just get up and run away. But Illumi, though, at the same time, he is very protective of his siblings. The only one he is really not protective of, Aluka. Now, I know this is kind of messed up, and I'm not siding with the Zoldyck family, but Aluka is unbelievably insane. She's something that we never even seen in the series before, right? She could just wish for your head to explode. and she's very dangerous. She's one of the strongest, she's from the Dark Continent, Nanika, right? Nanika is unbelievably powerful, and the Zoldyck family all fear her. That's why she was locked away for so many years, right? And out of all the siblings, right, like Miluki, Kabuto, Killua, Illumi is very protective of them, but he just doesn't really accept Aluka as a sibling. She's more of like, a plague, a terrifying weapon. And, there is some truth to that because she has destroyed things and is capable of taking the Zoldyck family out. And that's why Illumi was so, like, ready to take her out because she threatened their whole bloodline and their whole family. And all the Zoldyck family, they have to protect each other and, their whole, the assassin bloodline, right? Because it would have been over for them. So I'm not siding with the Illumi for that, right? Because we know Aluka, we love her, right? But Illumi was only trying to protect people. But then at the end, he started saying, I want to use her power for my own gain. That was fucked up, right? That's not it. So that's not being a good brother at all, right? Um, but at the same time, right, his net ability, right, the manipulation, what is it, needles, where he can like put you under some kind of hypnotization, right? Because he tried to do that with Killua at the Hunter exam, right? He did that to some of the bodyguards, right? It is a pretty OP net ability, I will say. Another moment that really changed my whole perspective of Illumi, probably my favorite moment from him in the whole series, is during the chairman election arc, when we see Hisoka and Illumi going after Aluka, right? When they're in the car and they're running through the forest, they're trying to make it to the hospital, right? To heal Gon. We see Illumi and Hisoka talking about killing Aluka just no matter what, right? That's their goal. They really want to kill her and make sure she doesn't destroy the whole Zoldyck family, right? And we see a scene where Hisoka is like, does that mean I get to kill Killua? And Illumi loses it. It's like a rage moment. His hair gets all long and wavy, and his face goes black, and his eyes look freaking menacing, and he has unbelievable amounts of bloodlust, and there's crows around him. And even Killua and Aluka sense this, and they're like, oh my god, what pissed him off like that? And he says, don't even think about it, right? That he'll kill Hisoka for trying to kill Killua. And when you look at this, right, this is probably one of the biggest pieces of evidence that shows that he does love his siblings and puts them above anything else, because he was trying to protect Killua this whole series, right? And I know he did mess him up, psychologically. We've seen that throughout the series. But that was Illumi's whole goal, is to prioritize Killua's survival, right? And that's something I really do appreciate from Illumi's character. The thing with Illumi, though, is that he does love his siblings, but not in the classic sense. He has more of an obligation to them, right? Where I have to protect them, I have to, be there for them, but not in the traditional big brother way. Like, I'm not gonna go, play video games with Miluki, or, go do my makeup with Kabuto, or whatever the hell Kabuto wants to do, right? Um, he's not in that classic sense, because he is the oldest in the family, he's the most mature member of the family, right? And he's very close with his parents at the same time. Like, he takes orders from them, even Zeno and Maha, right? Because in York New we did see Maha, Kabuto, and Illumi. And something else I want to mention is we do see Kabuto, like, whenever they're on missions with Illumi a lot of times, right? And even now on the Black Whale. And a lot of people are, confused why Illumi's even on the Black Whale. Because what does he need to be there for? We have the whole thing with Hisoka, which I did make a video talking about. Illumi might be a traitor. Please go check that out in the pin up there. But Illumi is there also, I think, to protect Kabuto. Because Kabuto isn't the strongest member of the family, right? We could argue Silva, we could say Zeno, and, Illumi's up there as well, but Kabuto is probably one of the weakest, maybe besides Miluki, right? But I think Illumi is there to protect him as well because, you know, they're going to the dark continent. This is the most scariest, terrible place in the whole world of Hunter x Hunter, right? They got beasts the size of freaking Earth, right? It's insane. They got big giant bees. They got freaking dinosaurs and birds and crazy things there. They got all these plagues, right? And including Nanika, right? Nanika is that came from the Dark Continent originally. So I don't know if they have some kind of plan with that. That's why the Zoldycks would want to go to the Dark Continent. Let me know down in the comments below what do you guys think about that. But at the same time, let me know what you think about Illumi as an older brother, right? Do you think he did do kind of a good job protecting them, but not a good job, holding on to their sanity, right? Because Killua was really tortured, if we're going to be honest, right? And did mess him up. But our boy is way stronger now, and he's alive, right? That's a big deal in Hunter x Hunter. But anyways, guys, it's been SJ Benj. Peace.